Hi Libra. This is Gina. Thank you for joining me today. I just finished your March horoscope, and that will go up today or tomorrow. I think it might not be until tomorrow. But just while it was all sort of fresh in my mind, I thought it was a good opportunity to come live for a quick check in. There's so much happening in the astrology right now, February, March, and April, especially. It's just very active, very busy. And I have two different aspects of my channel. I have this Astrology Chat live that you're watching now, where I am live every day talking about the current astrology, different transits that we might be having, doing overviews of the chart, or just talking about astrology in general. And I hope that that kind of feels just like hanging out with a friend who happens to be an astrologer. Um, and then I also have on my channel horoscopes, monthly horoscopes. So those are more scripted, and I spend quite a bit of time on them. And I'm in the middle of working on March right now. And like I said, everything is just so busy right now that I thought it was a great time to sort of combine the two and just spend a bit of time talking about this current astrology. We'll be talking about what's happening right now, certainly quite a bit of what's to come, not just in the weeks ahead, but really in the months ahead. And we'll also do a little bit of post diction where we look back just a little bit. I think this is sort of an underrated part of astrology. It's interesting to sort of look backwards as well based on the astrology and see how it applies to things that have already happened. So we'll do a bit of that too. Okay. And also, please leave any questions, thoughts, ideas, absolutely anything in the chat. This is definitely meant to be a back and forth with all of you. And if you're watching this later, feel free to leave any questions in the comments and I will get back to you. Okay, so let's take a look at this current chart. And I do kind of add things to this diagram as we go. If you're interested in that, if you're sort of into learning more about astrology, it might help to follow along with that. My hope is that it would, but my hope is also that if that isn't interesting to you and you just kind of want to enjoy hearing about the astrology, that these videos will work for you as well. So the big news right now, Libra, for everyone all around with astrology is Mars going direct. Finally, Mars is moving direct. I feel like I always forget how long Mars retrograde really is. By the time the whole thing's over, Mars can spend 6 months in a sign or pair of signs where that retrograde is occurring. And that's certainly been the case here with Cancer, and even more specifically with the 17-degree point of Cancer. So even though Mars is now moving direct, it will still stay at 17 degrees of Cancer for, I think, like another 2 weeks or something. It's just so slow moving as it gets going again. But for you, Libra, this is happening in your 10th house, which is all about work and career. Or public image if you're retired or a student or not working for any reason. The 10th house can relate to your public image, but usually it's work and career. So the really classic, easy manifestation of this, interpretation of this, would be sort of wanting to quit your job. And maybe you didn't even feel that way before, but you may have had some feelings around not liking your job in the last few weeks or wanting to get away from it. This is sort of more a thing that's behind you. We'll get into this. This is a bit of that post-diction that I was speaking about. It can also be that there's been recently some sort of outburst a little bit at work. Maybe there were more challenges than usual. Emotions are kind of easily rising to the surface here with Mars retrograde. And so you may have had some of that at work. It's also kind of hard not to think about how it might more often be connected with men or masculine energy because we are talking about Mars. So sometimes people can kind of personify a transit for us. So this could be an actual person at work who maybe was a little bit more impulsive, a little bit more emotional than usual, maybe a masculine figure. But it could also be a process that you've been going through connected to your work. And it's interesting because this retrograde for you, Libra, also involves your 11th house, which is Leo, which is about friends and groups. So I feel like this is just kind of like almost like a very public version of yourself, like who you are at work, who you are with friends, right? Not who you are with your children or who you are with your spouse, but those more public sides of yourself. It's like all of that has been up for a bit of revision. So now the retrograde is over. Maybe there's been some thinking, some reworking of these different themes during this time. Now that the retrograde is over and Mars is moving direct, we can be thinking more about forward moving progress, right? These situations get a little bit of forward momentum. So you might feel more motivated to take action now. You might start to feel a little bit more confident now when it relates to areas of work and also soon enough with friends and groups, but particularly right now with work. Now is more of a time to act and move forward at work. Before it was like inner feelings more or things that were happening, but now that Mars is direct, uh, confidence is up, motivation is up, activity is up. It's still sort of a bit of a difficult period. Mars doesn't exactly love to be in Cancer, but I think now you have more energy for work. Before it felt really draining and you maybe kind of wanted to walk away, but we're sort of turning the corner on that, and now you actually may be feeling more sort of invigorated for work. And what did you learn from that process? What did you learn during that retrograde? What came up for you the last couple of months at work that felt irritating, but you learned something from that irritation? You did something a little bit differently um, than you had in the past, maybe. Okay, there's more to cover, so I just kind of want to keep it moving because I like to try to keep these under 20 minutes, and I have so much more I want to talk about. Basically, we have to talk about this Pisces sector of your chart. I'm sure whatever degree of knowledge you have about astrology, you've probably already clocked this very, very busy Pisces sector of the chart. And you know what? While we're here, I'm going to give Aries a circle too, because they are very connected to each other. And there's a lot going on in these two sectors of the chart right now and into the future. Okay. So let me just say there's a lot of activity between these two houses. And that's sort of more extraordinary than if it was just any two houses, because we're looking at Pisces and we're looking at Aries, the last sign of the zodiac and the first sign of the zodiac. So this might relate to endings and beginnings. You know, it suggests a bit of an era shift. And there's so much else going on in the astrology right now that suggests that too, that it makes sense. That's resonating. But the North Node just crossed from Pisces into Aries. We have the North Node right here in conjunction with Neptune, dreaminess. You know what? Before I go through all the signatures, let me tell you a bit about these two houses and how I feel like they might be showing up for you, Libra. So the sixth house is all about your daily routines. And it's interesting that you have this going on with career right now and so much activity in your sixth house, because this can be daily routines at work. So it might be that work has been going through a big shift. You know, this house is connected to work as well in terms of daily routines, but it's daily routines in other senses as well. Self-care, you know, sometimes health can show up in the sixth house because it relates just to how we care for ourselves day to day, our daily routines around food, exercise, sleep, meditation. It's interesting, a Pisces ruled sixth house. Sometimes for you, this can be mental health, right? This can be working on that side of your health and just how you're feeling. Like, this is an amazing time, has been, will be, for any kind of like therapy, meditation, any kind of work like that. Is really great, busy sixth house stuff. Okay, and then the seventh house is all about your closest one-to-one relationships. A relationship with a spouse very often shows up here, or romantic partners. So, having a lot going on between these two houses. The North Node just moved from here to here. We have it meeting up with Neptune. We also have Venus here in Aries. Now, we just talked about how Mars now is direct, and that's true. But in a few days, Venus will station retrograde in Aries. And after that, Mercury is going to go into Aries and station retrograde as well. So we'll have a Venus and a Mercury retrograde at the same time in Aries. And then both of those planets will shift back into Pisces. And then once they turn direct, will shift into Aries, right? So we get an extra long time with the planets going back and forth and over this degree point. Saturn will also move into Aries this year. Neptune will move into Aries this year. There's just a lot of endings and beginnings. And for you, it's tied to your daily routines, Libra, and your relationships. How are your relationships changing your daily routines? How are your daily routines changing your relationships? How can you make adjustments there to make it all work a little bit better? How has all of the profound work that you've been doing on your health, physical and mental, paid off? Where do you still have a little more work to do? Where have the amazing new partnerships that you've created started to thrive? Where have partnerships and relationships that you were already in changed and grown? And where do they still need to change and grow? Those are sort of the two big life areas and themes. And I think they are sort of tied together in some way during this period. So wherever we have a lot of energy in the chart, sometimes it can feel like, oh, it makes me nervous. There's so much going to, let's say, a relationship. But no, not at all. We want that. We want it's where we're getting progress. It's where we're getting potential. It can be so easy to be a little bit afraid of the astrology, but that was sort of never the purpose. And I think especially retrogrades have gotten such a bad reputation, and there really isn't anything to be afraid of with retrogrades. We're just focusing our energy there, and that's how we make progress and grow and learn. So I think that this is an amazing time for you in terms of your work, in terms of your closest one-to-one relationships, and in terms of your daily routines, your health and your mental health. Those are really the life areas that feel most big and up for a review right now. I do want to mention Pluto and Aquarius to you, though, as well. And this isn't something that I'm talking about in everyone's chart, but I really like your Pluto placement. Pluto can be a difficult sign, to be sure, because Pluto goes very deep. So Pluto can be very intense. Pluto can go very deep. And you had Pluto in the fourth house since, when did that start? 2008, from 2008 to 2023. And that was working with your home, your physical home, and your family of origin, like your parents. You may have had quite a lot of activity in those areas, transformative activity. The fourth house also relates to ancestors, like your sort of family line, where you come from, really your foundation, but also just your physical home. So that can be a tougher place for Pluto because it's on an angle. The angular houses, the first, fourth, seventh, and 10th, we can feel these transits, they're a little bit more intense. The fifth house is a little lighter. So first of all, just Pluto moving out of your fourth house is nice in 2023. And now, just only recently in the last few months, Pluto's like firmly in the fifth house for good. But the fifth house, so it's that letting up of the energy of Pluto leaving the fourth, but it's also Pluto moving into the fifth. So the fifth house is all about the joy that we get from the things that we create. So many different things can show up here, but it is connected to children. It is connected to creativity, to fun and leisure, to your romantic life, like the physical side of your relationship, your sex life. And so Pluto moving into this part of the chart, you're like going deeper with what brings you joy and happiness and fun. Your experience of fun and joy is becoming more intense, right? Your creativity, your children may be sort of having a lot going on within them. So every transit has multiple potentials. And the highest potentials of Pluto and Aquarius in the fifth house, I just really like them. It's incredibly creative. It's finding your joy, realigning with what really helps you have fun and enjoy yourself. And I just feel like so many of us could use more of that these days. I feel like I'm noticing different signatures throughout different charts where people are sort of coming out of that survival mode just a little bit, but then also like being thrown back into it. It's realizing the importance of calming our nervous systems in order to make positive progress in the world and in our lives. That the peace has to start from within, not come from external sources. And that if the peace comes from within, we can bring it out into the world and help to move the world in a better direction. But being all stuck in that survival mode, unless we are actually in immediate physical danger, isn't helpful. It slows down our ability to think well. It slows down our confidence and our ability to think long term. So I think that for you, there's something about tapping into this fun and pleasure and joy that I just really, really like. So I'm taking a look now at my comments, and I hope that maybe I addressed that in the reading because we did talk about relationships. I see a relationship question here. So anyway, please check out my channel for more. The February horoscopes are already up. March is going up tomorrow. And thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like, please, if you've enjoyed it. It really goes a long way to help the channel. And have a great day. I'll see you again tomorrow.